ないのか激しい風のささやきが君にもきらめくはずさ焼けつく愛の稲妻が空を見ろ
Welcome to the Super Sentai Buddies. This is episode 2 of You Only Live Man Twice, the internet's best and only podcast dedicated to Chojuu Sentai Live Man. Every week we watch an episode of the show and share our thoughts with you, the listeners. My name is Matt J. With me, as always, is my co-host and buddy, Mark. Mark, how you doing today, bud?
I am doing good. I'm cold. I mean, I think everyone in the Northeast is cold, but my podcast studio in our new home is in the only room in our house that doesn't have a heating vent.
Oh, no.
So we keep, our house has 2 floors. We keep the bottom floor well heated because all the bedrooms we use are down there, the living room, the bathroom, whatever. We keep the upper floor pretty cold so that we don't have to pay extra to heat it, right? Because we don't use it much.
Absolutely.
It's guest rooms in the library. So we turn the heat on when people are coming to visit, but otherwise we keep it at a chill 57 or so.
Yeah.
My podcast studio is on that floor, so not only is just the heat not on up here, there's no heat. So I can't even turn the heater on to warm things up, to jack the thermostat up. I close the doors so I don't, wake up my whole house while I'm podcasting. So all the doors are shut. There's not even any way to get heat in if I wanted to. I've just got this little ceramic heater down by my feet.
Though I am lucky because we are recording this on Monday evening, and the weather in Cleveland broke this morning. So it was 1 and 2 degrees all weekend, and now
right.
It's 38, and it's going to be 52 on Thursday.
Nice. I think we are a day behind you on that. I believe it's supposed to warm up tomorrow.
Yeah, so that is exciting. What is also exciting, Mark, is watching another episode of Chojuu Sentai Live Man. It has been a while. When I said in the opening that every week we do this, that's just because that's how the script reads, and I did not change the entire script. Every week that we do the Super Sentai Buddies, this is what we do. But it's been, 6-7 months?
I don't know, man. I've just been watching episode 1 every week, waiting for episode 2, because that's what the opening script says. That's not true. I had to really refresh my memory on what was going on.
Did you rewatch episode 1?
No, I wanted to. I was kind of running short on time today, so I went to the Sentai Wiki page and reread the description of episode 1.
Okay, I watched maybe 5 minutes of it by fast forwarding the whole way through to just try to remember who these people are and why they're so mad at each other.
Yeah.
But today we are watching, finally, the second episode of Live Man. It is called 3 Powers Sworn to Life. But before we get into that, shining in the heavens, there are 5 stars. What, Mark, is our first star of the week?
I think first star of the week, and maybe I suppose it's a black hole instead of a star, is that apparently, the Black Plague has struck Dave's family.
Oh, yeah, it is pretty bad. They'll be fine. They've just all got, a fever.
Right, which is why we are here doing this.
Yeah, and actually, my sister, who lives with me, has also gotten whatever it is that they have. So I am sitting in my room away from her, hoping that it just sort of passes me by.
You feel the tendrils of death reaching out for you?
No, I'm refusing to acknowledge the possibility.
It is. So when your kid is sick, it's always a rough thing, especially when they're young, because you can't really explain to them what's going on. You can't tell them, just hang in there, it'll be better. So mentally it's rough, but it's also just physically gross. Little kids are gross when they're sick. Even if they're not throwing up or snotty or whatever, they're just sweaty, they're drooly. Kids are just gross factories, and when they get sick, it ratchets up by 10.
Yeah, I get pretty gross when I'm sick, and I'm a grown man who knows I'm not supposed to be doing those things.
Exactly. I can't imagine having 2 of them at the same time, twins, sick twins, just all of that doubled. It just sounds like the worst. Just the worst.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're right. I think you hit the nail on the head. So yeah, that is why we are doing this week. We will be back to our regularly scheduled programming next week with episode 11 of O Ranger.
Yeah, you are. That puts you almost 25% of the way through O Ranger, because I think it's a slightly shorter season run.
That's right.
So you are closing in on the quarter pole, which seems...
Yeah, but that'll be next week. We will be doing this week. And I think it's going to be exciting. I really liked the first episode of this show. I'd kind of forgotten how good it was until I sat down to watch it again today.
Yeah, me too. We'll get into it, obviously, on the other side of this segment, but I agree with you. It's just so much fun. Before I get into talking about how awesome Liveman is, though, let me hook us back into our segment. Matt, what is star number 2 this week?
Mark, our second star of the week is that, so we're into 2018 now, right?
Right.
The year of crushing it. And I have gotten a few things for Christmas that I think are really going to help me like change my game a little bit.
Ooh, okay.
And they are the way I am describing it in conversation is that I am doing my best to live that Jetsons life.
I have heard you say this at least twice, I think, in the last week or two.
So for Christmas, I got 2 things. Well, I got more than 2 things for Christmas. Mm-hmm. But 2 of the things I got for Christmas were a teapot alarm clock, which is an alarm clock that has essentially like an electric kettle inside of it.
Okay, all right.
And like a little like teapot reservoir that fits into the side of it. So you set your alarm clock in the morning, and when like it boils the water goes into the pot, and then the alarm goes off and you already have tea.
Nice. That's fantastic. And very Jetsony, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Like, I wake up and my alarm clock has already made me a hot beverage. It's very good.
Before the second one, just out of curiosity, what is your go-to breakfast tea?
I have been doing a Twinings breakfast tea. Just like the black tea.
Yeah.
I prefer black tea to green tea, given my druthers.
Mm-hmm. Especially in the morning.
Yeah. But when I'm at work, I'm usually drinking green tea because I don't like to like bring in a half a gallon of milk to the office. And I always drink my black tea with milk and sugar. So green tea is my sort of easy, like drink it all day office tea. But black breakfast tea is my morning, like get up and go tea.
I have
also
semi-recently subscribed to one of those, those things where you send people money and they send you a box full of garbage every month?
Oh, yeah.
So I've done one of those garbage box things. I held off for a long time and finally succumbed to the trend. But what it is a company that mails me 4 different types of loose leaf tea every month.
Oh.
It's pretty fun. A lot of green teas in there, which is what made me think of it. A lot of green teas in there.
The other reason I do black tea in the morning is because to actually get it done, I have to not only get out of bed to pour the tea, because I have like my mug and tea bag sitting by the alarm clock. Not only do I have to get out of bed to do that, I also then like 5 minutes later have to walk to the kitchen to pour milk into the mug. And by that point, like I'm well and fully out of bed. Like it really does take an alarm clock, a hot beverage, and a walk to the kitchen to like really cement the fact that I'm awake. So now I've got that going on, which is very exciting. The other half of the Jetsons life that I'm trying to lead is that my sister got me these 2 like smart plugs, like Wi-Fi enabled like plugs for the wall.
Oh yeah, like that smart home business.
Yeah. And so what I've done is I have plugged a number of the lamps in my apartment into these plugs.
Okay.
And then I have the app that manages those plugs connected to the location services on my phone via a separate app called If This Then That. So when my phone recognizes that I've left the house, it cuts off power to those plugs and just turns all the lights off.
Nice.
And then when as I am parking my car and pulling into the street, it recognizes that I'm back in the area and it turns my lights back on.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's the best. Like, it's nothing, right? Like, it's a complete, like, worthless doodad. I know how to turn my lights off and on. I've been doing it my whole life. But it's just enough of, like, a fancy future thing that I'm really into it.
Just out of curiosity, how does your schedule sync up with you mentioned your sister has been staying with you. Are there ever times where you like accidentally shut the lights out on her because you have left the house?
The buttons thankfully have a manual toggle button.
Oh, okay.
But it absolutely would, because actually the TV is plugged into the same thing as one of the lamps, because they're on with a power strip. And so what would actually happen is if she was home watching a movie and I just left, it would turn the TV off. Which probably isn't the best. We should probably rearrange those. But, like, I don't know. It doesn't matter to me. They're never doing it when I'm here. That's the whole point. But I should be careful, because I'm like a half step away from buying, like, a bunch of those Philips Hue bulbs and making weird programs that, like, flash the lights red when my Domino's app tells me that the pizza's on the way.
Oh, man, yeah. I understand that appeal. I look at those things longingly every time I'm in like a Best Buy or a Target.
Yeah. If they weren't like $50 per light bulb, I would already have them all. Anyway, so that is our second star of the week. Mark, what is our third star of the week?
Third star of the week is something I have taken to referring to as the Zelda Triforce. Mm-hmm. What I mean by that is, so we've talked about it at length. I have been playing Breath of the Wild off and on for like the last, I don't know, how long has it been a game? 7 months?
Something like that, yeah.
It's a game that you can just go back to. Like, just I have 20 minutes, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to play some Zelda. My wife
Especially since you can like pick it up and carry it around with you.
Right, it's amazing. It's fantastic. My wife has been doing the same thing. My daughter also playing the heck out of that game, which is tremendous. Nice. But that's a well-established fact. That's not what this star is. So my wife is she's beaten all of the Guardian Beasts. She's at the stage where she could be fighting Ganon, but instead she's just like running around collecting all them shrines and all of the DLC content and all of that good stuff.
Oh, so that DLC content is very good.
It is. It's good. So she is still actively engaged in Breath of the Wild. Over the Christmas holidays, we hooked up an old GameCube and briefly started playing Wind Waker together.
Oh.
So we will play video games separate from each other, but we also will play video games together. If you grew up with a sibling, I know you and Dave did this, like you learn to play video games vicariously, right? Like you can kind of watch and play.
I feel like especially the Zelda series.
Very much so. My younger brother played Ocarina of Time probably 80%. Like what I consider playing Ocarina of Time is actually 80% watching my brother play it.
Yeah, actually, I remember my freshman year of college, like the way that I played, there were those 3 great GameCube games that were all out around the same time. Metroid Prime, Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, and Mario Sunshine.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, I played all 3, because I didn't have them. I played all 3 of those in your room with you.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That was a good time. I'm not sure there's ever been, although the Switch is pretty close, honestly, there's ever been kind of a triumvirate of games that hit that close together that were that great.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if there was a Metroid game this year, like, it would have hit again, because we got the Zelda and Mario. And honestly, those Zelda and Mario games are so good that it kind of makes up for the fact that there wasn't a third part of that grouping.
Well, I'll tell you, and I know this is not the star, that ridiculous Mario and Rabbids game is incredible. It's that has been the third leg for me. But anyway, so we hooked up an old GameCube over the Christmas break, threw in Wind Waker, played it for like half an hour, and my wife and I were talking. So the last time we had kind of dabbled in Wind Waker was on the Wii U, which we no longer have because we didn't hang on to it. We should have. We didn't.
You had that HD version, yeah.
About half an hour and said, boy, it's a great game and it holds up very well, but the HD version really spoils you, right? It really, it's cleaner, it's bigger, and very specifically the ability to have the map down on that gamepad.
Oh, absolutely. Especially in the dungeons.
So after about half an hour of playing the GameCube, we somehow talked ourselves into going to GameStop and buying a used Wii U so that we could play HD Wind Waker.
Oh.
So now we're playing that together. We're 10 10, 15 hours in, maybe. My daughter is also playing that, by the way, which is phenomenally fun to watch.
It's a beautiful game, and I feel like the look of Wind Waker would be very appealing to a kid.
Yeah, it really is. And there's a lot of things she recognizes, right? So like she got super excited when she ran into the Great Deku Tree. The Kuroks have been a joy for her.
Oh, yeah, because she's getting it all backwards, really, right?
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of, like, Chews, they look different, but her brain put together that it was the same thing, which has been real fun. So we're, like I said, Holly and I are maybe 10, 15 hours into a joint game of that. We're kind of swapping back and forth, taking turns, progressing through it together. Today, my wife was stuck at home all day because she was waiting on a service person to call.
Did the service person ever call?
Around 5 p.m., I think 5:30 is when they showed up.
Okay.
And their service window was 8 to noon, so they weren't too far off. But consequently, Holly couldn't leave. She had to stay in the house all day because you have to be there when the service person shows up. So probably around 9 or so in the morning, she sent me a message and said, I'm sort of annoyed because I want to play Wind Waker and you're not home. And we're playing it together, so she can't progress without me. So what ended up happening, I said, well, you could play Breath of the Wild. But she's been doing a lot of that. She's kind of been enjoying the change up. So what ended up happening is she has now started playing Twilight Princess HD on her own. So now that lady is rocking 3 different Zelda games all at the same time, and they're all really good.
That is amazing.
It's just that there's just Zelda on all the time. Just
Hey,
I
man,
walk into my house, there's Zelda. You don't know which one, but it's there.
It's going to be there. That is amazing.
So that was a lot of talking for star 3. I apologize. What is our 4th star this week?
Fourth star is shorter. You know how I said that it was cold out the other day?
Yes.
Like very cold out? Since it had also been snowy, the roads were like incredibly salty. And since I once had a car get destroyed by like salt corrosion, I'm very sort of like particular about how often I take my car through the car wash during winter because I don't want my car to like literally dissolve again. So I was driving, I went out for my lunch break and I was driving back to the office and I drive past this car wash on my way back. And I thought, oh, this will be a great idea. It's not one of the ones with like the spinning wipers. It's one of the ones that's like the laser wash where the wand circles your car and sprays it down a bunch of times.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I've got a few minutes. I'll pull in and I'll do that. That'll be great. So I pull in. Here's what I forgot, though, is that that's hot water, and it was like 1 degree out. And so I pull into the little chamber, but the difference between the temperature of the water and the temperature of the air was such that you could not see outside of the car because it had turned into like this really dense mist.
Right.
And so I was trying to find the spot where like you stop the car, like the sensor, so that the wand doesn't just like wang into your hood. And I managed to do that, okay. And then it started spraying my car down with water, at which point I remembered like, oh, right, it's very cold, and this is water, and it's like a fine mist. And I was just watching this thing spray ice onto my car.
That's amazing.
Like clean, soapy, waxy ice.
Did it actually manage to remove any of the salt?
It did, yeah, because it was hot water. So like once that like first go around happened, it did manage to like melt it all off. And actually I think it did a very good job. And I thought I had sort of dodged a bullet. And then the next day, I went to go like toss something in the backseat of my car and realized that the side effect of this is that water had just poured like in and around the cracks of all my doors.
Right.
So all my door, like my driver's side door was fine because I'd opened it from the inside and was able to sort of like give it a push. And it hadn't like the ice hadn't really locked in yet. But all of my both of my back doors were completely frozen shut. So I had to climb in through my front seat, like wiggle my way around to the back and just like really shove my shoulder into the doors to pop them both open. So yeah, that was my, I guess it's not really a commute update, but in my car update.
I think you have the 5th star too.
Oh, yeah. Another short one. So this is the first episode that we have recorded since New Year's.
Yeah.
So the last one I think came out in 2018. This is the first one we're recording in 2018. And so we had, my sister and I had our parents over for New Year's Eve.
Oh, nice.
Because they were in town and, we were just hanging out. And the problem with New Year's Eve, as a millennial, is the same problem with the Olympics, which is that, like, I only ever actually want to watch the TV in my apartment. Like the actual, like, from a network television station stuff. Like, 1 or 2 times a year, depending. Like, I want to do it on New Year's, and I want to watch the Olympics. And if it's not an Olympic year, I kind of only want to watch it on New Year's to watch the ball drop.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you can't. Like, there's no way to really do it unless you have some sort of thing. And so what I was trying to do was get, like, a live stream of it on, like a live YouTube channel, and then airplay that to my Apple TV to have it showing on the screen. But I was messing around with it so much. I finally found one, and it was definitely, like, it was not the A stage. This was, like, the C stage. This was, like... This was the Planet Fitness stage. Right. Not the one in Times Square, but the one, like, down the block where you can still sort of see the ball drop, but it's not, like, really front and center. And so I'm sitting there, and we finally get it up, and I look at the countdown, and it says, like, 1:30 to go. And I'm like, cool, we just made it. And as I'm doing this, I hear the New Year's Eve party from my upstairs neighbors as everyone starts to count down, because the weird version that I had gotten was so bad and laggy that we almost missed New Year's. We would have just been, like, counting down at, like, 12:02. So we all just look at the clock, which is what we should have done to begin with.
Right.
Like, I have a clock. We realize that they're counting correctly. We sort of get in the spirit of things somewhere around 5 or 6. And that is how we rung in the new year. So
that's great.
Yeah. So today, as I said, we're watching episode 2 of Chojuu Sentai Liveman, called 3 Powers, Sworn to Life. We're going to go watch that, and we'll be right back. All right, welcome back. So we just finished watching episode 2 of Liveman, and I forgot how crazy intense that show is.
Yeah, man, it comes right out of the gate. And we had left off basically in the middle of, like, citywide destruction.
Yeah, most of, like, the Science Academy Island had been destroyed, and almost everyone was dead.
Yeah, so the premise of this show initially, when you're watching episode 1, is it's kind of built on, like, the great hope and bright future of the greatest young minds of the world, right? It's this sort of high-tech, almost science utopia island where there's this academy dedicated to looking forward to futurism, to all of that great stuff. They're building, like, spaceships and all. It's very hopeful. The first 10, 15 minutes of the first episode, and then it gets really bleak really quick when they just raise that thing to the ground.
Oh, yeah. Looks like 3 of those students who are, like, so obviously evil that they could have told, like, I feel like they should have been able to tell that those 3 were evil during the admissions process.
Yeah.
Turned on the rest of the island, like, left to go join an evil space empire, and had gotten transformed into members of the Brain Army, I think?
Yes, something very much like that. So they have a handful of different names. These 3 bad guys who are, I think, professors? Is that right? Or at least they're going by professors now?
They're going by doctor. Whatever.
Doctor, that's what it was. But they also have, like, so they all have names. Like, there's Kenji, who is also Dr. Kemp. That's his new bad guy name. He went to space and met a space Michael Jackson who made him into a special bad guy. So that's Dr. Kemp. But then he's also Beautiful Beast Kemp. So they all have kind of multiple iterations of themselves now.
Yes. And they all have like superpowers. Like the female of that trio is like made out of guns. She's got like gun hands and gun fingers and gun elbows and stuff.
Yeah, Rui or something like that.
I apologize because I'm probably going to end up playing sort of fast and loose with the names of these characters because they use the names a lot in the first episode and then just kind of forgot this episode. So I don't know what these people are called because I have changed notebooks since we did the last episode, so I don't have it written down in handy.
We've got Yasuki, who is Red Falcon.
Okay.
Joe, who is Yellow Lion. And Megumi, who is Blue Dolphin. And then there is Kenji / Dr. Kemp, Rui / Dr. Mazenda, and Go / Dr. Oblar. And if memory serving, Go and Joe were good buddies prior to this. So there's some like extra tension between those two.
Okay. And then the doctor... the actual like scientist who taught all of these people. His name is Dr.
Hoshi.
And we are going to be talking a lot about Dr. Hoshi this episode.
Yeah, Dr. Hoshi gets a lot of play. Dr. Hoshi is sort of the Dr. Light of this universe. So he's the lead doctor / principal of Science Island. He's the good doctor. And then the Dr. Wily of this show is Great Professor Bias, who's a super genius scientist guy in outer space. We still don't really know his backstory.
One of his arms looks sort of like a crab.
Yeah, that's him.
Okay, so we start off, and the land lion, which is the big yellow robot lion, had showed up at the end of episode 1, and it was running all over the place. We are also now introduced to Aqua Dolphin and Jet Falcon. And the thing about these is that Land Lion looks exactly like a lion. Like, it's a very good model of a lion. Jet Falcon looks sort of like something we would have seen in Jetman, right? Like, it's mostly a plane, but it's got sort of like a bird motif.
Absolutely.
Aqua Dolphin, on the other hand... Okay... So, back in the day, when they were making these robots, because this show was from 88, 89, right? So, this is like a few years prior to when we were watching it, in previous seasons. And the robot combinations are a little rougher. And so, instead of having separate robots, each of which are a single foot, or whatever... they were always more vehicle based. I think this one might have actually been the first season that had animal themed robots.
Okay.
But Aqua Dolphin, you can tell, is a very transitional robot. Like it's basically two science-y train engines sort of that are right next to each other but are mostly underwater.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
You're right. They're kind of very vaguely dolphin-shaped.
Like, they're rounded.
Right.
And the reason for this is that these are the legs of the giant robot when they finally combine, right? So you need to have sort of like two long, straight, skinny things that you can sort of like bend up and put on the bottom of this robot toy. But the result is something that is only, like, you have to be very generous to see the idea of a dolphin in that thing.
Yeah, it doesn't it does not come through cleanly at all. So it is worth noting maybe at this point that these robots, these special ships, have been designed kind of in the interim by Science Island with the specific purpose of defending Science Island.
Yes.
So there was a moment a few years ago where our team of 3 heroes used to be a team of 5 heroes.
And 2 of those people were killed by the betrayal students? Yeah, sure, the betrayal students as they were leaving.
Yeah, that is the point where this show got dark. Like, that's where the turn happened. And when those 2 were killed, Science Island sort of realized, oh, there's a large external, very dangerous threat, and they started kind of gearing up, right? So Science Island started investing in defense tools. I don't know, whatever.
Sort of. I think it's partially that, and it's partially that, like, the 3 students who are, like, Red Falcon, Yellow Lion, and Blue Dolphin, they perfected the science they were working on before, designed the Super Sentai suits, basically, and then also built these giant robots as, like, their thesis project, I guess, maybe? Because they were still definitely students.
So, at the point where this show starts, when Aqua Dolphin and Jet Falcon emerge... Jet Falcon? Red Falcon?
Jet Falcon.
Jet Falcon.
The dude is Red Falcon, the robot is Jet Falcon.
Right. There is a fleet of kind of scorpion, dragonfly shaped, like, space fighters still buzzing around this island. And the opening 5 minutes or so of this show is kind of a space dogfight, and it's real good.
It's very good, especially when you consider that, like, these are all just little miniatures that they are, like, flying around on strings. It looks super good.
Here's the thing. So Ivy, my 6-year-old, has been binging through Dino Force, Dino Super Force, just finished Ninja Steel, and is now watching... Mystic? What's the Mystic one? Mystic Force?
Mystic Force? It's the one that was... The Sentai of it is Magi Ranger.
Yes. So that one's a little bit older, but she had otherwise been watching a lot of the newest shows.
Mm-hmm.
And I say binging. She's a 6-year-old. She doesn't have the time or space to watch like 7 hours at a go. But she's been on a Power Rangers kick for a while. So I've been seeing a good bit of Power Rangers in my house, and the newer ones are very, as I'm sure you know, CGI driven.
Mm-hmm.
So the robots and things are very computer animated, and in some ways, this old analog effect works better for me.
It definitely, and I know it feels good.
Yeah, and I know it's just practical models and whatever, but the CGI thing, because they're not investing any more money than they need to in making these programs, still it has not caught up. It is still in the uncanny valley. And so it really takes me, a grown-up, out of the show. Whereas the robots is just like, all right, well, that's, they're just little models. It's great.
Yeah, it's fun. The one thing I love about practical models, especially in something like this where there's a lot of fire, is that, like, the ripples in water and the size of, like, a flame are things that, even if all the other miniatures next to it are perfect, like, nothing makes something look more like a miniature than it being next to fire, because you can't miniaturize fire. You can just have less of it.
Right.
And so seeing, like, a very detailed model next to a flame lets you know, like, oh, that's approximately 6 inches long. Anyway, so they chase off these fighter jets, right? And they all land and sort of untransform, and they're back in their sort of civilian garb. And what's her name? Blue Dolphin?
Megumi?
Megumi is looking around because, like, this place has been her home for years. And she's like, oh my gosh, everything is destroyed. Everyone is dead. Dr. Hoshi is dead. Like, this is... I mean, obviously, this is a tragedy. And she is not dealing with it well. And Red Falcon walks over and says, like, no, don't worry. Dr. Hoshi is alive. So everything's cool. And at this point in my notes, it gets a little fuzzy because I can't figure out, does he know that Dr. Hoshi is alive? Because I
don't believe so.
I think it's just a guess that he makes to try to make her feel better, because they do find him in a minute, like, under some rubble. Right. But they, like, at first they think that he's dead, and then he's alive, but he's very badly injured. So, like, this was a complete shot in the dark. Like, oh, don't worry, Dr. Hoshi's definitely alive, and everything's going to be okay.
And it's still sort of a strange way to comfort someone, because it is great that your mentor and the principal of Science Island is still alive, but conservatively, hundreds of her classmates and friends and teachers are still dead. There's still a lot of death here. It's great that the professor survived, but that doesn't wipe away your grief, right? There's still hundreds of other dead people.
Yeah, it's... And that is not including, like, the spaceship that, like, the launching spaceship that got shot out of the sky that was going to be, like, an orbital station that was full of, like, all of the best and brightest of their generation.
I absolutely forgot that had happened last episode. But yeah, the attack on this island was kind of like step one was just blowing that like Noah's Ark of geniuses out of the sky.
Yeah, so bad day, but at least Dr. Hoshi's alive.
He is. That's almost comically as Yasuki is saying, Dr. Hoshi's fine. Like his hand just emerges from this pile of rubble and sort of waves around. He was just waiting for someone to ask about him.
Yeah. Like he was in pain, but he didn't want to bother anyone unless they were already looking for him.
He is not only alive, but he is alive with that sense of purpose of someone who just missed dying or knows they are dying soon, right? Like this man does not have time for chit chat or nonsense or even like friendly reunions.
Yeah.
He is on a mission from go.
Yeah, and what he says once he's sort of coherent is, you guys need to go because I built you a secret base and you need to find it. It is in like beyond the island past the lighthouse. Like there is a secret base waiting for you.
Yeah.
Which is incredible because during the entire time that these people have been building their stuff, he has been building them a secret base and has not been comparing notes with them.
No. And I don't want to tip it because we're not going to make it into this secret base for a while, but this is a pretty rad secret base. This base looks pretty great.
Oh, yeah. This is not just like a treehouse with like...
No, he has not built a survival bunker or anything.
No, he built like a full-on Super Sentai headquarters, like in secret. For basically no reason. Why? There is nothing to be gained by not telling them about this.
No, and he is still cagey when he's explaining it now. So he is injured, but he is not like suffering a concussion that we can tell or anything like that. There's no reason, like he's not gasping for breath and trying to string together thoughts that he can barely hold on to. Like he's coherent, he's cognizant, he's in control of his faculties, and he's still vaguely telling them, you need to go to the island beyond the Tower of Light. And there you need to join your 3 powers. Why are you talking in riddles, man?
Oh, yeah, he definitely does tell them about combining their powers in a very vague way. So as this is happening and they're trying to get him to stand up, because, that's what you do with people who've been trapped under rubble. You try to get them to stand up and walk under their own power.
Absolutely.
Just like standard trauma first aid stuff. Yeah. So as they're doing this, Dr. Kemp shows up and is like, hey, well, I see that you're still alive. We can't have that. So he summons... Okay, now follow me here, because we're going to get a couple of layers deep.
Yeah, this is getting a little messy.
Dr. Kemp summons the Guardianoid Gush, which is a robot that kind of looks like a prototype of Gray from Jetman.
Yeah, you're right.
And then the Guardianoid Grush summons a Chaos Phantom. And the Chaos Phantom's name is the Brain Beast Barabarodzuno. So that's a lot of stuff going on right there. I don't know if in later episodes of this show, the Guardianoid Gush is just like the thing they use to summon the Chaos Phantoms. But I do know, here's another needless complication. The Chaos Phantoms are summoned by the Guardianoid Gush, as I previously mentioned. Guardianoid Gush takes the bad energy of the world and then transforms that into chaos energy and then channels that chaos energy into summoning the brain beasts.
Yes, that is all accurate. And I'm sure it made perfect sense to all of our listeners.
Yeah, listen, Kemp summons the Guardianoid Gush. Guardianoid Gush takes bad energy. He converts it into chaos energy. He uses the chaos energy to summon the brain beasts. Or, I'm sorry, to summon the chaos phantoms. The chaos phantoms are all called brain beasts, and this particular chaos phantom is called the brain beast Barabaradzuno. So, we all get it. It's okay.
I think if I'm not mistaken, the sort of official translation is Zuno Beasts. I looked this up because I was watching some weird bootleg, and it didn't even give me Brain Beast. It gave me some garbled nonsense that I couldn't make sense of. So I think there's Zuno Beasts is the sort of official translation on that, whatever that means.
Okay, I'm into that.
So following that sort of weird chain of summons, this brain beast is kind of the monster of the week, right? So we've already got several layers of hierarchy going on here. There's the dread professor bias up at the top.
Sure.
And then there's the 3 doctor betrayers. Somewhere around them is this Gush guy who may be their equal or their servant, or who knows. And he has a power who summons the monster of the week bad guys.
Yeah, and
there are also the standard foot soldier putties floating around.
Yeah, and this monster of the week could not look more generic. I guess we kind of always get that in the first couple of episodes, right? Except for Die Ranger, which came right out of the gate with Baron String, which was at least a defined look. This dude is just a mess of spikes and lasers. That's all this dude is.
Yes, he is very much a kind of late 80s dystopia monster.
Dr. Kemp sort of throws some shade at the R3 heroes, saying oh, I'm sorry, you wouldn't understand all this chaos energy stuff, but anyway, now it's time for you to die.
That is a thing, and I'm curious to know if it persists throughout the season. I sort of hope it does. There's this weird sense of smart science guy ego arguments that undergirds a lot of the conversations, and it's really fun. So it's not just I am stronger and mightier than you. It is also I'm a smarter and better scientist than you.
Yeah. They also all went to school together, and so are very concerned about who is smarter.
Yeah. And the first guy here, the brain beast or Vudo or whatever he is, his power set, so to speak, is mostly just sort of hitting things and shooting lasers, right?
Yeah, he seems to be able to shoot bats out of his shoulders, and those bats are electric, I think. But
that's right.
That,
yeah, they were
pretty. It's a pretty base level dude.
So there's a couple of tracks going on here. But the first thing we get is a quick kind of battle with that brain beast with a handful of whatever the putties are called. I don't remember.
Yeah, and Red Falcon tells the other two, take the doctor, get him somewhere safe. I'll hold these people off. Which he does a terrible job of, because he doesn't transform. No. And so he's just trying to punch robots in the face with his soft human hands and getting repelled because they're made out of metal, and he's an idiot.
Yep, his version of holding them off is basically just to see how many times he can get hit. I mean, I guess it's effective in a manner of speaking.
Yeah. I mean, it's effective on 2 levels. 1, he does hold them off, and 2, he does figure out that he can get hit a lot of times.
It's very true.
We cut very abruptly from this fight scene, so abruptly, to what must be a ruined medical facility, because there is a gurney and an IV drip in there that they're able to use to try to get the doctor some fluids.
Sure. Who knows where they got that drip from? What is in that bag? I don't know.
Just whatever. Find some juice, put it in. Right. These are science people. They're not doctors. I guess you can be both, but
you are right. It was a really aggressive cut. So we just leave that battle with Red Falcon getting just blown all to heck. And suddenly everyone's just standing around looking serious and nervous at the doctor.
Yeah, and then Red Falcon shows up, and he has somehow escaped the fight, and they have not managed to follow him here.
Yeah, he's fine. He just kind of strolls in. Everything's good.
Yeah. They are going around, and is this where they find the pregnant woman?
It is, just in this ruined medical facility. There's a lady who for a split second I thought was going to be another ranger because she was dressed monochrome.
Mm-hmm.
And that's usually an indicator of, okay, so this is probably going to be the Yellow Ranger. Granted, we already have a Yellow Ranger, but...
Because the thing is, I know there are 2 more Rangers who show up in the show eventually. It's not just these 3 the whole way through. So
yeah.
I'm kind of waiting for them to find these other 2 people in episode 2. Because that's that's how Kaku Ranger worked.
Right. You usually tack on a couple extra. So one of the things, and this is a bunny trail, bear with me. One of the things that I was not prepared for when my daughter got to watching Dino Supercharge is there's like 9 or 10 Rangers in that show. It's out of control.
Oh, there are so many Rangers in that show.
And I know you have seen at least a chunk of that because you talked about it on Ranger Danger.
Yeah, and like some of them are time travelers.
Yeah, there's
but not from the same time periods.
There's some kind of knight and also the prince of that knight's kingdom. It's a mess. But yeah, right now we have 3 Rangers, and like you, I'm kind of on the lookout for who's the next Rangers. Like they're going to be coming at some point, and for just a second, I thought this was one. No, this is just like the only other survivor from Science Island.
Yeah. So the 3 Rangers realize, like, okay, we need to go seek the island beyond the lighthouse, right? Right. And they leave the doctor, who was just moments ago on death's door, like, oh, you can take care of this pregnant woman. That's fine.
Yes.
And he does. He gets off the gurney, and they put her on the gurney, and now he's wheeling her to safety very slowly.
That's exactly right. There's several intercut shots of the doctor just walking down blown apart hallways, either pushing or dragging this gurney with him, periodically offering vague, semi-reassuring sentiments.
Yeah. All the while, the Livemen, who have now finally remembered that they have superhero suits, they're on a beach and they are fighting the Brain Beast Zuno, or whatever it is his actual name is. I don't know if my bad subtitle bootleg is right or yours is.
Whichever one it is, Brain Beast works for me.
There is a cool bit where I think it's Red Falcon, takes his sword and cuts the face of one of these robot putties in half vertically, and the face casing falls off, and there's a moving around robot face underneath it. It's very cool.
Yeah. So those guys are called Jimmers, apparently. I looked this up.
That's weird.
I know, it sounds like a nickname for your cousin from Mississippi.
Yeah.
Hey, it's Jimmer. But they can, one of their deals is in fact their head and limbs operate independently of each other.
Yeah, which is something that we also get in O-Ranger. Those dudes, the Barra soldiers.
Yeah.
If you knock off one of their legs, or one of their arms probably, that arm will continue to crawl towards you.
So, other than that, it is a pretty standard Sentai fight scene, right? The robots are rolling around, cannoning things. There is a moment before they go all robot on everybody where they team up for a 3-person shoulder laser cannon thing.
Yeah. So they don't combine their individual weapons into one big cannon. They
No.
just summon a giant cannon, which is cool. But what's funny is like we said, this is 88, 89, and the practical effects aren't quite, the special effects aren't quite there outside of the practical stuff.
Right.
And so in just a few years, you get like very good looking lasers. But this year, it's very much like you can tell it's just hand animated, kind of like matte finish lasers, like in special effects in the background.
Yeah,
Which is
it's pretty
extremely
great.
charming.
So initially, it looks like that 3-person shoulder laser cannon has blown up. What is this? The Phantom?
The
No.
Chaos Phantom Brain Beast?
That, yes. For just a minute, it seems like that has ended it. But then that Gardenoid guy,
The Guardianoid Gush?
yeah, he shows back up, and it turns out he has yet another, like, secret special power.
Oh, are you referring to the Giga Phantom Cannon?
Yes, I am. Which may be my favorite name to date for the Make My Monster Grow device.
Yeah, because it's a laser bazooka that turns a dead monster into a giant monster.
It is. And it's called the Giga Phantom Cannon, which is beautiful.
So the three Livemen, they're like, well, we still gotta fight this stupid giant thing. And they just jump at it with their weapons, which is a valiant try. And I always love it when a human-sized person tries to fight a giant-sized monster, but like this is not a good plan, and it does not go well for them.
So here, unless I turned away and missed something, we get another very sharp cut.
Mm-hmm.
Because suddenly our rangers are just like scuba-ing their way into a secret base.
Yeah, they realize they can't defeat the dude. They look over and see the lighthouse, and then we get like a smash cut to them coming up from like an underwater hatch. So they have run away, found scuba gear, like gone diving, discovered the secret base, found the hidden entrance, and gotten in, all in the course of this one smash cut.
Yeah, and the doctor is already there, I think.
No, the doctor's not there. The doctor never gets there. The
Oh,
doctor
you're
is
right.
still
He's still
in
off in some abandoned hallway.
Yeah, I think he's in a tunnel at this point, which is its own kind of hallway when you think about it.
Because it's not the doctor that's there. It's this like weirdly sexy red robot android.
Yes, her name is either Cologne or Colon.
Yup.
Which is a weird choice. And she, the only way that can, okay. So as you said, she is a like, she's not like sexy, but like, she's definitely trending towards sexy.
Yeah, we're not talking like Blade Runner or Fifth Element or anything here.
Right.
But it is, unlike a lot of the robots in this show, it is a very clearly like female human shape with form-fitting clothing.
Yes.
And it's vinyl.
And part of that like vinyl form-fitting clothing is like a white circle over her left breast, which she pops open and pulls out 3 CD-ROMs. So really, and on these CD-ROMs is the hidden software that the professor or Dr. Hoshi has been developing that will allow them to combine their giant robots. So A, she's like keeping hidden software tucked in her bra, which is weird. And B, somehow Dr. Hoshi has developed this software which will make these 3 robots, which he did not build. They built the giant robots. He somehow built in like a backdoor thing that he could program them into combining.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
And from what I can tell, that is their like super science. Like they don't have like magic crystals that let them combine. They just carry around these CD-ROMs.
It is right in that era, right? Late 80s, where CDs are the new hotness.
Oh yeah, I mean it's I think for the same reason that in like Power Rangers Samurai or I watched the entire Samurai season. And Samurai Sentai Shinkenger. In Shinkenger, the like things that they use to transform are like fancy cell phones.
Right.
Like that's just the stuff they grab.
It is. But CDs are the least durable and sort of worst intermediate step we have had to deal with. I mean, they were my childhood, so I'm cool with CDs. Like, that's how music came. That's how you burned your movies.
Oh, yeah.
But CDs are actually kind of a garbage media. They're pretty terrible. They're very fragile. They don't last. Even if you take good care of them, they deteriorate way quicker.
Oh, yeah. They are very weird. And also, like, I don't know, did you have this experience, Mark? I remember when I was a kid, we had a car, and the car had a tape deck, but did not have a CD player.
Yes.
And so the way that we got around this, because we wanted to listen to our CDs in the car, is that we got a Discman. It was just like a Walkman, but for discs. And then we got one of those tape deck adapters.
The cassette tape adapter, yeah.
But the problem was, you're in a moving car, and CDs are like not a like when you put a CD into your car stereo, it is like stabilized in such a way that everything is okay. When it's just in a Discman, one of the people in that car is on full-time hold the Discman as still as you possibly can duty, so it's not just skipping and like jumping from track to track.
Yeah, because it works like a record. I mean, there's not a needle reading it, there's a laser, but it's the same principle. And so a bump absolutely makes that thing skip, especially in the early days of Discman. Towards the latter years, they started developing better, like anti-skip technology and what have you. But those early years, you really, like, you had to cradle that sucker in your lap like you were holding a baby.
Yeah, it was madness. And so I kind of have to imagine that this is happening with these CD-ROMs as they're trying to install them and like run the software. Like, no, don't jostle it. It's got to go. Okay, once we finally run the track, then it's okay. But
yep. And there's also a bank in this very sophisticated base that you have to enter underwater like a beaver dam. There's also a bank of like computer monitors that are sort of displaying readouts for these discs and explaining to the science kids how to use their new science toys. But they're these great, again, a product of their era. They're these great kind of goofy wireframe gridded images.
Yeah, they're really beautiful.
And because I am a kid of that era, I just love that so much. I love that visual for science in the same way that I like Star Wars still looking weird and lo-fi despite being crazy high-tech.
Yeah, it's very good. There's a couple of those like 3D laser grids. There's some when the Chaos Phantoms are summoned.
Yeah.
It's super... and we're still getting it in O-Ranger. Like, whenever they do their henshin, there's like a big green laser grid that like fits over them.
There absolutely is. And that robot, Cologne or Colon, is kind of explaining it to him. And she has a weirdly lyrical voice.
Yeah, sort of like a sing-songy voice.
Yeah, and she's if you watch her when she moves, she doesn't stand still and kind of herky-jerk her way around like an Alpha 5 or a Marvin the Paranoid Android or what have you.
Oh, no, she's dancing.
Yeah, she's dancing all of the time. So she's this weird, like, red robot has this almost musical quality to both her voice and motion. And it's just so different from what I've seen in the Sentai programs that I've watched that it really stood out in a positive way.
Yeah, it's kind of this... Oh, by the way, this underwater base, I think is a giant robot turtle, maybe?
Yes, I think that's right, because my brain kept trying to connect it to... the Wildcrats, which is a children's program.
Oh, I was connecting it to Cameo from Die Ranger, aka Tor the giant turtle from Power Rangers.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense.
I think it's called Grand Tortoise, maybe, or Grand Taurus.
I think that is right.
It's something like that. I kind of missed it as they were saying it, so my notes are a little incomplete. But yeah, I think that is what it is.
My notes call it the Tortuga because, again, I thought it was the ship from Wildcrats.
So,
I do also love the idea that there's a robot in a base that can only be accessed underwater.
well,
So I don't know if she was built in here or if she was brought in some airtight ship. But that's a precarious place for a robot.
That is. It's like a weird prison that she lives in.
Yeah.
Anyway, so at some point in here, they were able to get out and get back to their ships. Or their robots. Which I don't think as a group I have a code name for, but you know what we're talking about.
And while that is going on, good old Doc Hoshi is dying.
Oh, yeah. Doc Hoshi gets crushed by rubble. He is able to interpose himself between some falling rubble and the pregnant woman.
Yeah, kind of metaphorically transferring his life to the kid.
Yeah, like, you must live for the one who is about to be born, one of those moments. It's a
sort of
sad
thing.
but very nice moment.
Yeah.
They get back to their vehicles. There's like a little bit of a fight. One of them, like, Jet Falcon does a cool barrel roll thing. And then they combine into, is it just called Live Robo?
Yeah. So the collective name that you were looking for earlier, I think, is the Moto Machines, which is pretty fun to say. So there's Moto Falcon, Moto Lion, and Moto Dolphin.
Nice.
And they do combine, like, first stage combo is just Live Robo. I believe eventually we will get Live Boxer and then Super Live Robo.
Ooh.
Right now we've just got Live Robo, which is the Falcon, Lion, and Dolphin motos.
Yeah, that's sort of like the vanilla version of, like, still amazing, but, not their final form. And of course,
as always,
got that sword.
Yep. As always, it is very fun to see, like, the first combo, the first time they all come together. I don't know why it always looks pretty much the same, but it always gives me a little thrill.
And also, it's weird that we're getting this in the second episode. I feel like in the seasons that we've watched, like, it really makes you wait to get that giant robot, but this really hits it quick.
It does.
They got a couple of moves. They got a robo beam. They got just like a flying jumping punch. And then the same way that everything gets killed on a Super Sentai show, they've got a big glowing sword and it hits it and it dies.
Yep, the Super Beast Sword.
Yes, and the attack was the Super Live Crush.
Yeah, which is a good name.
Yeah. So they just straight up murder this monster, and then we cut away to space where it's the Grand Evil Professor Bias, and he laughs at the Liveman and calls them naive. Which, like, listen, dude, I get it, you're an evil dude, but there's no one else in the room with you. You could, like, just take the L. Like, you had a bad day. And then, okay, so we cut back to Earth, right?
Yep.
And the Livemen have untransformed, and they're very pleased that they have been able to win. Then they hear a baby crying.
Oh, yeah.
And the camera cuts away to the previously pregnant woman, who is now holding a baby and sort of coming out of a cave where it was the end of where that tunnel was leading to.
Yeah.
So what that means is that after Dr. Hoshi died, not only, like, this woman managed to, like, unassisted give birth in, like, a rubble-filled cave that was collapsing around her, and then claw her way to the surface, like, with both her and the baby safe, and is now just strolling across the grass. This woman is the most incredible person in this episode, and I don't know why she's not on the team.
Yeah, you're right. That is insane. I mean, that lady has just lost a ton of blood. She shouldn't really be able to sit up or stand up.
Yeah.
Let alone, as you say, kind of claw her way out of rubble and walk carrying her child and looking just fine.
Like out on a garden stroll.
There is absolutely no visual indicator that she just pushed a human baby out of her body.
Yeah. So the three Livemen look at this and they say, oh, like, Dr. Hoshi died, but this woman and this baby are now alive. And we realize now, through his sacrifice, the value of protecting all human life.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a strained analogy to get there.
Yeah, but it does give us our episode title, which was Three Forces. What is it? Three Forces Sworn to Protect Life, something like that?
Yes.
This is specifically what that is
life.
referring to.
Right. So it is, they have watched their mentor, their leader, kind of nobly sacrifice himself for the life of another, and they say like, all right, we were already fighting, sure, but now we sort of understand the notion of sacrificing yourself for the lives of others, and that's what we're going to kind of dedicate ourselves to.
Right. This is not just vengeance for when these dudes killed our friends. Like, this is also about protecting life.
This is not just proving that we're the smartest science doctors.
Yeah, and then it ends with them sort of looking determinedly like out onto the water.
Yeah. It's a nice ending.
Yeah. This was great.
It was. I was thinking as I was watching this, I wish we could really do this show. And you and I are both super busy dudes, and there's no way we would have the time to just dedicate another chunk of our week to doing yet another podcast. Mm-hmm. But I wish we could. This is a fun show.
Yeah, I remember when we put the first episode of You Only Live Man Twice out, there were a couple of people who were very excited because they were like, oh yeah, Live Man is my favorite of the Sentai shows. And I get it. Like, if it's all like this, even if it's all kind of like this, that's great.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, I should take the initiative to just watch it on my own and enjoy it. But at the very least, maybe we'll get to do a few more of these, months down the road.
Yeah, although I will say that right now we've done 2 episodes of this, and we're calling it You Only Live Man Twice. So if we never do another one of these specifically, that might be perfect.
Well, no, that's a good point. That's a real good point.
I don't know, maybe we can watch Mask Man. Mask Man kind of rules. I watched the first 1 or 2 episodes of that. Nice. I love just going in and watching like the first 2 episodes of a Sentai I don't know anything about, because they're always like, even if the middle of those seasons are always weird and like kind of draggy, which happens sometimes in the middle of any show. The first 1 or 2 like kickoff pilot episodes of every new season of Sentai just like goes hard for it, like immediately. Yeah. Listen. I'll make this offer to you while we're at it. I know you have already spent probably more of your life than you wanted to talking about the Christmas special from Dino Rangers. But if you ever want to revisit that, for some reason over Christmas, my daughter got it into her head that it was the only thing she was going to watch because she's on a Power Rangers kick and it's Christmas. Sure.
So I've probably seen that episode like a dozen times in the last couple of weeks.
Was this the Dino Charge special or the Super Dino Charge special?
It was the Super Dino Charge.
Oh, then I haven't seen that one. I think the one that we did was Dino Charge.
There are so many Rangers, my friend.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, but that is perhaps a project for another time. But I think, because we're not going to bother putting the Chaos Phantom Brain Beast Baro Zuno on the Creature Royale.
Right.
So I think then that is going to do it for us, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Cool. Well, thank you for listening to this episode of You Only Live Man Twice. Before we finish up here, I'd like to remind you all that you can email the show at supersentaibrothers@gmail.com. If you want to get any updates on future episodes or check out the things that we're talking about on Twitter, we are at Super Sentai Bros. If you like the show, please remember that Shining in the Apple Podcasts apps or wherever you find your podcasts these days, there are 5 stars. Please rate, review, subscribe there. That's what's going to help new people find the show. The Super Sentai Brothers are produced by Mark as part of the Retrograde Orbit Radio. If you would like to listen to any of the other great Retrograde Orbit Radio shows, such as
Mount Olympus, as we like to say, the best Hercules Legendary Journey podcast on the internet, And probably in the top 30 or so of Xena podcasts.
You can find that and any other Retrograde Orbit Radio show at retrogradeorbitradio.com. I wish that we had not picked such a tongue twister. Every week. I make it through every week, but I'm always wondering, like, is this the week that I'm just not going to be able to say it? Anyway, but I did it. I did it one more week.
That is your fault, by the way. Retrograde Orbit comes from you and Dave when we were all like 18 years old.
I know. But that's it for this week, guys. I'm Matt.
I'm Mark.
And we'll see you next week for the greatest show on Earth.
Liveman